Hi, I'm Bob Parmenter. I'm the Chief Scientist here at the Valles Caldera National Preserve, and today we are out collecting samples of insects and spiders and millipedes and centipedes, the ground-dwelling fauna of the forests here at the preserve. We have 36 total sites on the preserve right now that we're monitoring. Half of those have been burned in the Las Conchas fire and half of them have been unburned. Right here we are at an unburned ponderosa pine forest, and we've been monitoring these insects here for about 2 years and will continue on into the future. The other sites we'll go to today will include burn sites that were burned in the Thompson Ridge fire as well as in the Las Conchas fire. So the upshot of this is to understand how the fire affects the invertebrate communities in these forests and grasslands. We're also doing other measurements on the trees, on the wildflowers and grasses, on the soil erosion, stream water quality, everything. But today is insects. So we have a series of these replicated traps out here in the forest, and these are essentially just holes in the ground with cups in there. The insects will be walking along the ground and fall in. The propylene glycol solution that's in here, it's a non-toxic antifreeze that kills and preserves the insect specimens. So what we need to do to get them out of the trap is to come to each site, pull the cup out of the ground, and this has a large number of insects, spiders, and other invertebrates in the solution here, along with some pine needles. And we'll basically just strain this through a tea strainer. So the solution goes straight through, and we'll just gently pull these ponderosa pine needles out of here. And we'll basically pour this back and forth a couple of times, make sure everything's out. Another pine needle here. One more should do it. And the cup is clean. So at this point we'll put the cup with the solution back in the ground and put this cover back on top. This keeps rain and snow and blowing debris out of the trap. So here, as you can see, we have a good variety of crickets, beetles, spiders, basically the denizens of the forest floor arthropod community. And these will be taken back to the laboratory and identified down to the species level. There are hundreds of species here. And then counted, so we get some idea of the species richness, the number of species, as well as the abundance of each species. So we have here also pre-labeled vials that correspond to the trap and the date. And the strainer full of insects, we just knock through a funnel here, squirt the funnel out with some alcohol that also acts to preserve the specimens in the vial, and cap it up, and we're done. So basically these will be transported back to the laboratory. From this information that we gather here, we can determine whether the fire has a long-term negative effect on the arthropod communities versus almost no effect at all. And what we found here so far in the last 2 years is that a lot of these beetles, centipedes, spiders, the species composition might change a little bit, but basically the abundance of these animals stays about the same. And the reason for that is that when the fire comes through the forest floor, many of these organisms go underground. They're underneath rocks, they're underneath logs that may or may not burn, but many of them survive in good shape. They're like in miniature bomb shelters when the fire goes by. So they come out immediately right after the fire. And we find that these species are widespread, and they serve as food sources for rodents and birds and bears. So the wildlife that is coming back into this forested ecosystem can feed on these organisms. Plus, the organisms in their own right are incredibly important for the forest ecosystem. They are herbivores eating live plants. They are what we call detritivores that eat the litter and break down and recycle the nutrients, much like in a compost pile in somebody's garden. So these invertebrates are incredibly important for keeping the forest healthy. So the fact that many of them survive in good numbers following a fire gives us some reassurance that nature basically has got this under control. Nature is taking care of this. This is a natural system, and it will continue to recover from the fire. Fires are natural impacts, have their natural disturbances in forested ecosystems, and nature has adapted to this. They've evolved over many, many millennia. That got it?